Welcome to the Mom Self-Care Podcast, your safe space to finally focus on YOU. I'm Twitty-Hawkins, your self-care coach for moms, praying wife, and mom of four. And I know that being a Christ-centered mom is such a beautiful calling, but it can be so draining. That's why it's important to make sure you are filling your own cup. On this podcast, we'll discuss practical, holistic self-care strategies to help nurture your mind, body, and spirit. Because a mama who fills her own cup pours that back into her family with true peace and joy. Tune in for honest conversations about motherhood and self-care, because you matter too. Blessings, mamas, and welcome to the Mom Self-Care Podcast. Well, I am your host and self-care coach for moms, and I've seen videos of people doing their mid-year check-ins, either at your jobs or in your businesses, but I'm going to encourage you today to do it for your soul. You guys who follow me, get your pen out, because you're going to want to take notes for this one. And if you can't take notes right now, make sure you save this episode, come back and listen. Now, with summer, a lot of us are getting super busy with our kids being at home. And of course, you still have to work. And even when you're a stay-at-home mom, we know that it doesn't stop. There isn't a break. So we want to make sure that we are checking in with our spirituality and our relationship with God. Psalm 139, 23 through 24 says, "Search me, God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in thy way everlasting." So I invite you to ask yourself, what are things you may be feeling anxious about? Is there anything that has been pulling you away from God? Because a lot of times when we're feeling anxious, we're worried. So we are actually trusting in those things that are not of God. We're trusting in our fears. We're not trusting in God. So what are those things that are pulling you away from him? And then asking yourself, what is God showing me in this season? I talked about that a little bit in our last podcast episode about the self-care reset. Asking yourself, what is God showing me in this current season? And again, guys, make sure you're writing this down, because you want to come back and look at it. So what is pulling you away from God? Is it social media? Are you scrolling too much? Are you watching the news? I encourage my daughter, because I don't watch the news, because I know it's filled with a lot of negativity. And that brings my spirit into a very negative place. And I don't need to do that. So whenever something I feel like, and it's true, whenever something needs to be brought to my attention, I will see it on TikTok, I will see it on Facebook, and then I do my best not to do what they call doom scrolling, where you scroll and read and read and read, and again, takes you to a dark place you don't need to go to. I'm laughing because I can relate, but I make sure that I don't do that. So asking yourself, what is pulling you away from him? Are you watching the wrong things? There's a movie that recently came out. I'm not going to say the name of the movie, but people have different opinions. Some people are like, oh my gosh, the movie was so good. Some people are like, do not watch that, because it is going to mess with your spirit. It is going to mess you up. So asking yourself, am I watching movies and shows and listening to music that is filled with negativity or drama or sadness and pain, and it's keeping you there? Because if you study the brain, you know that the brain does not know the difference between reality and something that's fake. So if you're watching something and you really connect with it, you're going to feel, it's going to take you there. You're going to feel all the feelings. You're going to feel desperate. You're going to feel sad. You're going to feel angry. And sometimes it takes us to the extreme of those feelings. And again, everybody's different, but you may turn the movie off or the show off or the music off, and that goes throughout your day. You're not able to say, okay, I don't feel those feelings anymore. Let me move on to the next thing. Now, some people can, but again, this is about knowing you and knowing what you can take, what type of person you are. So what are those things in your life? Or is it that you're super busy? I've mentioned before that the devil, if he cannot make you feel bad about yourself, he will distract you. And there is actually a video that's going, y'all know I'm big on TikTok. If you're not following me, y'all know I'm mentioning it. Follow me on TikTok at CIC Inspire Me. But there's a video going around where this lady says something like, Satan loves overwhelmed moms. And so I started to listen to the video, and of course I'm reading the comments, and I'm like, oh, it's so right. Because if he cannot make you feel bad about yourself, because yes, God is the foundation of our home, but a lot of homes, us as moms, the women, we are making sure everything is running smoothly. We're raising the children for the most part. Again, every household is different, but if the devil can get in and get you to feeling bad about yourself, then he knows that's going to trickle down to your children, to your grandchildren. But if he can't make you feel bad about yourself, he's going to keep you busy. He's going to keep you distracted. And so that's what she talks about. And she mentions in that video. And I was like, yes, confirmation, because I say the same thing. So asking yourself, is it that I'm so busy that I'm not taking time to nurture my relationship with God, to be connected with God like I'm supposed to? This is not about you feeling mom guilt, because a lot of us were in different seasons. So if you know you're in a season where you have a newborn, or maybe you have a special needs child that needs a lot of attention, do what you can. Do what you can. And God will meet you where you are. He will meet you right where you are. He will know that, hey, she's doing her best. She's giving me what she has. But she's not letting, okay, I'm being performative. I'm being a mom. I'm doing all the things for my children. Stop her from connecting with me. And then on the opposite side, ask yourself, what's bringing me closer to God? Is it that you have a community of sisters and brothers in Christ that you're communicating with? Are you constantly reading in your Bible and studying? Are you listening to podcasts, maybe like this one, that are Christ-centered? What are you doing that is keeping you connected with God? And make sure you write that down, because you want to make sure you continue to do it. And if you ever stop, then you can come back and look at your journal or wherever you write this, or put it in your phone and say, oh my gosh, in that time of my life, I felt like in the first half of 2025, I felt like my spiritual life was really strong. What was I doing? And then you can see what you were doing, so you can go back and start doing it again. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is to ask yourself and to pray. Of course, all of this starts with prayer. What does God want you to release in this season? What does he want you to release? So for me, I know some things I just found out again on TikTok, listening to a coach that I follow. And she talked about this assessment that you can take and find out the things in your life that sabotage you, like mentally, what sabotages you. And she said, you take those top 3, and those are the things you want to focus on overcoming. So I said, oh my gosh. I said, you know what? And y'all know I'm into personal development. So I was like, I'm pretty sure I already know what they are. I took the test, and my top 3 were exactly what I thought they were. And so I went to my good old ChatGPT friend and, started to make out a plan of things that I need to do to work on that. So maybe you could do something similar, even if you don't take an assessment necessarily, but saying, hey, what are these things that are stopping me from living out my purpose, that are stopping me from becoming stronger spiritually as a woman, if you're married, as a wife, as a mom, fill in the blank. What things are stopping me? And then writing them down, and then praying over that and saying, God, if you want me to release these things in this season, show me how, show me what I need to do. Because a lot of us are holding on to things that are holding us back. And we want our children not to be held back in their lives, right? Y'all know I'm going to throw that in there. So we want to be an example to them. We want them to see, okay, mommy's not letting whatever it is hold her back. She's going for whatever it is in her life that God says is hers. She's going for whatever it is. So think about it. What mindsets, what obligations, what things in your life are holding you back that you need to release? And ask God to give you the strength to release those things that no longer serve you in a positive way. And third, ask yourself, what is one small spiritual habit you can return to this summer? And remember, small does not mean it's insignificant. Small does not mean insignificant, because depending on what season you're in, maybe that's all you can get in is one small habit. But when you make it consistent, it can make a world of change. Okay, it can make a world of change. So it can be, I saw somebody and they was like, let's normalize that. Let's bring back worship walks. Let's bring back, or let's normalize worship walks. So, where you're walking and you're worshiping God. And I was like, yes. And then somebody in the comments was like, what about prayer walks? And I was like, oh, I love those too. I sometimes call them gratitude walks. where you're walking and then you're just looking around and thanking God for everything you see. And then you start to thank him for everything in your life. So maybe it's something like that. Maybe it's listening to worship music while you fold your laundry. Maybe it's doing journal prayers. Maybe it's listening to devotionals on an app on your phone. Maybe it's listening to Christian meditations. I know it's so many different things that you can do. So again, asking God, praying for guidance and saying, hey, what is one small spiritual habit that I can start incorporating this summer, even for yourself? And I'll encourage you as well for your children. And that will make such a huge difference. Even if it's, like I said, just a few minutes, do that. So write those things down. And then a few questions you can ask yourself to reflect on the first half of the year is, how has God blessed me this first half of 2025? Because often we can get into our tunnel zone of just doing for others and not really sitting back and reflecting. Like I talked about the gratitude walks, really sitting down, and even if you need to, set a timer of maybe 15 minutes, 10 minutes, and write down, how has God blessed me for the first half of this year? And if you are like me, you know that God has blessed you a lot. And I encourage you to write down the micro things, the little small things, like he woke me up, I'm breathing well, because some people are in the hospital on respirators. Just writing down, having like a gratitude journaling moment where you write down all that you can think of, just what we call brain dump. So you just write it all out, all the ways that God has blessed you. And then secondly, writing out, how have you grown in the first half of this year? How have you grown? And I know with me, I've been working on, because I talk about it, I've mentioned it several times, going through perimenopause. And one of the symptoms of that is having anxiety or heightened anxiety. So I have been intentional about working on, even in the moment. And you guys are going to, depending on when this episode goes out, I have guest interviews and we're talking about trauma and all these different things and how to work through that. And one simple way is just breathing. Doing breathing exercises, and I've been very intentional about that. So that is one, just, throwing it out there. That's one example of some way that I have grown, that I have been intentional. So asking yourself, how have I grown this year? And again, write down those little bitty small things as well as the big things. Girl, pat yourself on the back. You were amazing. You have done great things in the last 6 months, 6+ months. So I encourage you to take 10 to 30 minutes, whatever you can create time for. I'm not going to say have time, because, we're like, I don't have time. You do. You just have to create the time. But like I said, whether it's 10 minutes or it's 30 minutes, or an hour, take the time from the notes that you took from this podcast to answer those questions during your mid-year check-in. And I encourage you to do this every year, every 6 months, and just know that you're not behind. You're right where you need to be. So if you're like, well, I should have, and I'm saying this to you and to me, you did your best with what you knew how to do. Okay. So if you know better, if you've written down, this is what I need to release, this is what I need to start doing, then start doing it. But this is not a session for you to beat yourself up, to succumb to the mom guilt and the mom shame of, well, I should have done this, I should have done that. No, this is you saying, this is where I am. This is what I need to do. Like I talked about, creating one small habit to connect more with God, to build your spiritual relationship with God. So I hope this blessed you. If it did, make sure you subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, share with the mama that you know needs to do a spiritual reset. Assess her spiritual connection with God, which we all do. We all need to do that checkup. If this episode blessed you, make sure you leave a review too. And thank you so much for watching. Until next time, take care. God bless. Thanks so much for joining me for the Mom Self-Care Podcast. I hope you feel inspired to make yourself a priority too. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss a thing. Share this podcast with another mama you love and leave a review. Also, feel free to let me know what you would like to hear about in future episodes by visiting me on Instagram at CIC Inspire Me. Until next time, take some time to take care of YOU, because you matter too.